Okay guys, just in case the Wi-Fi goes on me again tomorrow, I'm going to do a quick video going through yesterday's worksheet and explaining the answers so you can correct it yourselves. Okay, so in the first question, they're asking you to go through a list and identify whether they're neutral, basic or acidic. So if we have a look at the first one, guys, alcohol is actually considered neutral. Acid rain, the hint is in the name, would be an acid. Ammonia cleaner is a base. So ammonia would be a really, really strong cleaner. Antacid, so indigestion tablets, so it's anti-acid. There's your hint in the name. It's working against an acid, so it must be a base. So an antacid. Bread soda, it's also a base. Coca-Cola, or any fizzy drink for that matter, is an acid, and that's why they're so bad for our teeth. Distilled water should be neutral, guys, if we're drinking it. That is the ideal pH. Lemon juice is an acid. And sour milk is also an acid too. So I'll just squeeze it in at the bottom. Okay, part B. A mechanic noticed a slight leak from a car battery and some of this liquid accidentally splashed in his hands. Two things he could immediately do to minimise the damage to his hand. Well, number one would be to wash his hands thoroughly. Wash his hands, keep it under the tap for as long as he can stand. And then number two, he should try and neutralise it. Now, obviously, if it's a bad burn, to do this, he should go straight to a doctor, or he should go straight to the hospital or get medical advice. But he should, if he's burnt his hand with an acid, ideally, he should try and neutralise it with a base. Okay, part C. The pH scale from 0 to 14 is used to indicate the strength of acids and bases. Bases have a pH between 8 and 14, and acids have a pH between 0 and 6. Neutral substances have a pH of 7. A gardener notices the Adalia and the rhododendron flowers in his garden are not doing well. He is told that these plants like to grow in acidic soil. How could he find out if his soil is acidic? Well, he could use an indicator. He could get some of his soil sample and he could test it with litmus paper. Now remember, if he tests it with litmus paper, that's only going to tell him if it's an acid or base. It's not going to tell him how strong it is. If he wanted to find out exactly how strong it is, he could use the universal indicator. And that's going to tell him exactly what pH it is. If he wanted to be really fancy, and this is probably what we would have used in school, he could use a pH probe. And a pH probe, guys, is like a little Bluetooth probe. Excuse my very crude drawing here. With a little sensor at the bottom, and you stick it into the sample, and it connects to our iPads, and it tells us what pH it is. If he wants to ensure that his answer is as accurate as he can possibly get, he should ideally use a pH probe or the universal indicator paper. He could also, just to make sure his answer is really, really accurate, he could repeat the experiment a few times to making sure it's accurate. The garden centre tells him that adding peat moss to his soil will improve the growth of these flowers. What does this tell you about the pH of the peat moss? It tells us that the peat moss is basic, or that the pH is between 8 and 14. Okay, so for this question, guys, it's really important to bear in mind that your pH scale that you're going to need is at the very top. Your granny tells you that when she was young, bee stings were treated with bicarbonate of soda, but wasp stings were treated with vinegar. What do you think the pH of the chemical in the bee sting must be? So the bee sting was treated with bicarbonate of soda. Now, bicarbonate of soda, if we look up here, is a base. So if it's been treated with it, it must treat the opposite. So the opposites neutralize each other. So a bee sting must have been an acid, as the bicarbonate of soda is a base. And in order for something to neutralize something, it has to be opposite. And then it's asking you the opposite. In your opinion, is the chemical in a wasp sting acidic, neutral, or basic? So we can see a wasp sting was treated with vinegar, and vinegar is an acid, so it must be the opposite then. A wasp sting must be a base. Phil, Ian and Sarah and Peter are having a debate about acids and bases. We have to figure out who's wrong So Phil has said, even though liquid has a pH of 8 on the scale, it is more acidic than a liquid with a pH of 10. Ian has said the purpose of a pH scale is not to measure how acidic or basic a liquid is, but only to see if it's neutral. Sarah has said another word for a base is an alkali, so the liquid in alkali is alkaline and not an acid. And Peter has said a liquid with a pH of 8 on the pH scale is basic and therefore not an acid. So guys, the person who is wrong here is Ian. Now, Ian is wrong because the pH scale does tell us how acidic or how basic something is. So it tells us how acidic or something or basic something is, and it is a scale. Okay. John is suffering from the pain of acid indigestion. He's advised to take medicine to neutralise the acid from his stomach. What type of substance should be in this medicine if it's to work properly? Well, it should be a base, because a base is going to counteract an acid. He's also told to reduce his intake of acidic foods. He normally drinks fruit juice each morning with his breakfast. He's been told that some fruit juices can be more acidic than others. We've to use the headings below, and we've to do an investigation to see which fruit juice is most suitable to John's new diet. Okay, so what would we need? We'd need a beaker. We'd need our different juice samples. And remember, when you're drawing this in the real thing, you'd be drawing it with a pencil, nice and neat. So we would need our juice samples. But remember, we are not artists, we are scientists, so we label everything. There's our beaker. And like I said, if we were doing this in school, we would use our pH probe because they would be most accurate. And I realise I probably should have drawn that in the box, but you guys get the picture. pH probe. So guys, we'd need the following apparatus for this. We'd need a beaker, we'd need juice samples, and we'd need the pH meter or universal indicator paper. So guys, our procedure would be the following. We would measure out 5 mils of juice into one beaker, and using the pH meter or the universal indicator, we would measure the pH and record the result. We would repeat this 3 times, and by repeating it 3 times, it means we can calculate an average. And if we can calculate an average, it just means it's really accurate. We would repeat steps 1 to 3 for each juice, and then finally we would calculate the average for each juice. Now, we'd probably record our results, guys, in a table. Now, again, when you're drawing this, you would make sure that it's drawn much neater, but you might have your juices listed over here, your pH is over here. So we would have juice A, B, and C. That would be the first value you got for your pH, the second value, the third, and your final column would be your average. So our conclusion from the experiment would be that whichever juice had the least acidity, so whichever juice was highest on the pH scale, would be the best suitable for his new diet. So don't forget, acids range from 0 to 7. Remember, 7 is spot on neutral, so we want his juice to be as close to 7 as possible, because that's going to be the least acidic juice. I hope that makes sense. I hope everyone is keeping well, and I'll talk to you all soon. Stay safe. Bye.